Okay, so now that we have this effect going on, let's go ahead and go back. And what I'd like to do is I want to make adjustments to that original unsharp mask. So I want to explain what this smart object did. What this does is this, if you didn't turn it into a smart object, that filter was permanent, which means I can't go back and make adjustments. Right here, since this has been turned into a smart object, it's created what's known as a smart filter. This smart filter is going to allow me, no matter how long ago it was that I applied the filter, it's going to allow me to go in and, like, for example, on this unsharp mask, I'm going to click OK. It's going to let me actually make adjustments and changes. What I'd really like to do on this is I want to enhance this a little bit more. So I'm going to make this 95. And for the threshold, I'm going to do 10. And now I'm going to click OK. And then that may take a moment for it to render. So now it's actually sharpened up some of those details of the swirls a little bit more. I wanted to get a little bit more of a heavy painted kind of look going on the textures on LeBron. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another sharpening. So now that I've got that one fixed, what I want to do now is I want to go to filter and then sharpen and unsharp mask. But this time I'm going to do a smaller amount. So I'm going to do like a 60%. And then on the radius, I'm going to go ahead and leave the radius at 10, but I'm going to reduce the threshold on this one to 5. I'm going to click OK. So it's just done a little bit more sharpening. So now we're going to go ahead and use this one as the LeBron, and I'm going to change the name to effect, because that's really what's happening, is that is the main effect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the layer right above here. So the layer copy. We're going to make that one available. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to change and apply yet another filter of poster edges on this one. So we're going to come up here and we're going to go to filter, going to go to filter gallery. Now remember, these will run a little bit slow because we're using a pretty big image. So just be patient and save your files frequently. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the edge thickness to 0. We're going to change the edge intensity to 3. And then for the posterization, let's see what 2 looks like. This is starting to add a lot of speckling and stuff that's on there, which we will work with here in just a moment. And then we're going to go ahead and click OK. And now you got this really speckled kind of effect. We're going to go in again and we're going to apply another oil paint. So we're going to go to filter, stylize, oil paint. And we're going to make a couple changes to these settings. So with this part, what we're going to do is we're going to leave a couple of these the same, but we're going to reduce this down just a little bit. We're going to go to 4, 3. We're going to leave this as 0.1. We're going to do the bristles detail of 0, 0, and 0. So you can see what's happening here is it's doing a really heavy kind of effect. And we'll click OK. Now, if you haven't saved in a while, go ahead and save. We want to make sure that you don't crash the machine. This is a pretty big file, so I don't want you to lose your work. So before you apply some of the effects, I'd recommend just press Control S. And then what we're going to do on this is we're going to change the blending mode of this LeBron copy layer. And we're going to change this to overlay. And now that's really made it pretty dark. So what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the opacity. Remember, the opacity is how see-through is this layer. If it's at 0, it's essentially hidden. And if it's at 100%, it's showing you all of the effect. So as I start to drag this down, I'm going to drop this down just a little bit, maybe 25% or so. And if you want to see what effect that had, you can turn this off. So see, it's kind of darkening up some of the shadows a little bit. I might be able to even darken that up just a little bit more. All right, cool. So now it's pulling in a little bit more of those detailed brush strokes that were happening there. All right. So that gives you the little extra outlines and stuff. So now we've got pretty much everything that we want on this copy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this to LeBron Outline. And this last part here, before we do the text, is going to be just a matter of running a full sharpen on this. It's a concept called high pass filters. This will sharpen up images. I use this a lot in my photography. You can go to other, high pass. And then what this is doing is it's looking for the edges of the photo. Now you're not going to keep this at that level, so that's way too high. What we're looking for is we're looking at just kind of the outlines. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, yeah, that looks pretty good. Actually, it's adding a little too much color. Let's move this down a little bit. Let's do like 2.5. That looks fine. And then click OK. And then the piece that we'll do so that this will actually not just look like a gray box. Remember, with blending modes, you're dealing a lot with blending black, white, and in this instance, gray. What we're going to do is we're going to apply overlay. So if you look at his eyes, see that little bit of a catch light that's happening there? And then a little bit of more detail into the brush strokes. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the levels. So down here at the bottom, there's a circle with a black and white circle. Go ahead and click on that, and we're going to choose levels. Now, levels shows you all of the pixels that are in the light range, the mid-tone range, and then the dark range. So for example, if I come up here and I grab this little slider right here, it's going to take all of the color that used to be in this like mid-tone to dark range, and it's making it purely the darkest color that's on there. Go ahead and drag that one back. And then this one over here is taking everything, all of these pixels right here that used to be a little bit more subtle light colors. It's now making it pure light. You'll see it starts to really desaturate the color quite a bit, make it way too bright. So what I want to do is I want to use this to kind of darken up some of the darks areas, but still see some details, and then lighten up some of the lights. There we go. So if you want to see what numbers I'm using for this, if you want to get the same thing. Now, each monitor will look slightly different. So yours might look way lighter or way darker, depending on your monitor. So for the dark setting, I put 43. For the mid-tone, I did 1.25. Might be 1.28. My eyes are getting old. And then that one right there is 223. Now that, you can see what's happening again. It's just darkening up some of the darks. I'm not really liking what's happening down there. So we may fix that at some point, or I can show you later how to do that. And so that is really the main part. We're going to add in one thing to just pop the color a little bit more. So we're going to add in some vibrance. And then as I drag this around, you can kind of see the color starting to change. Something like this. I'm just going to play around just a little bit. It's not really doing a lot. You can turn that off, turn that on. It's really doing more to the background, but that's fine. So with something like this, you can do plus 17 on the saturation, plus 55 on the vibrance. And then we're going to add in one last thing for the color, and that'll do it for this part before we put the text on and finish this up. Zoom in just a little bit more, and we might play around with the setting a little bit and crop it slightly. So we're going to go in, we're going to add this piece here. We're going to do this color lookup. This is going to help us figure out if there's a way. Go ahead and click on this piece. Go ahead and do 3-strip lookup. What it'll do is it'll just make the colors a little bit more natural blend between them. So that'll help a little bit. All right, and if you haven't done so yet, save. What we're going to do next is we're going to add some text. We're going to put some last-minute finishing touches on this and then crop it down.